everyone, and welcome back to Our Golden 20s podcast. My name is Sadie, and I'm joined by my co-host Tegan.
Hi.
And her cat Maud. Maud is here. She's with us. Perfect. Oh my god, I'm so glad she meowed into the mic. Anyways, we are here to talk all about starting and hosting a book club. I know a book club was something we mentioned in last week's episode as a fun, budget-friendly summer activity. We've also talked about book clubs as a great way to meet new friends, and just, I don't know, a good way to keep in touch, I guess, with so many friends as you go through your 20s. So that's what we're going to take a deep dive into today. We're going to cover why you should start a book club, how you can go about starting your own book club or join an existing book club. And then we're going to wrap it up with some hosting tips, because I think the book club Tegan and I are part of, the best part of it is getting to host every couple of months. We both love to host, so we're going to chat through some of that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think if we kick off with some of the whys on why you should start or join a book club, one of my big whys and my favorite thing is that it gives you the opportunity to host without it being like a dinner party where you then have to buy food for a bunch of people, or a party where you're I have to buy booze for a bunch of people and who knows what state my house is going to be in. It's just a nice way to host, have some friends over without it being a whole big thing, which is nice.
100%. I love that so much. I feel like my biggest why of having a book club is every year I set my yearly goals, and I always have a reading goal as one of those goals. So when I first started reading, it was read 12 books this year. So it was one a month. Then last year, I think I upped it to 20 books, and now I'm up to 25 books for the year. But I think book club is really what's helped me grow on that goal every year, because it's just that accountability partner, essentially, to achieving that goal. So I think that's my biggest reason for starting a book club, being okay, I want to read more. This will hold me accountable to it. It's also a great way to try different genres or read things that you wouldn't normally read on your own. Through our book club, I've learned that not only do I love romance books, but I also really love a good thriller. I think actually that's our top genre in the book club, but I had never read a thriller before book club. So I feel like that's another great reason on why you should consider or could consider starting or joining a book club.
Yeah, 100%. There are definitely genres I would have never read and books I would have never read if I wasn't in a book club. I think it's another just great way to go out and meet people. We often get a lot of questions about how do you meet people in your 20s? How do you make new friends? It's very hard when you're not in school anymore. And I've met lots of people through our book club, people who had never met before or only met once or twice at a party, that I now consider my friends. And so that I think is another great thing, as well as it keeps you sort of accountable to meet with your friends once a month or however often you decide to meet, which is also nice because it's Sadie and I are in the same book club. Obviously, I'm not making a new friend by hanging out with Sadie, but we are getting to see each other at least once a month, which we do see each other every week. So maybe I should have picked someone else, but you get the idea.
Yeah, no, it's that standing appointment with friends who you otherwise might not see.
Yeah,
100%. I'm going to go super nerdy with this reason on the whole why side of things, and that is that reading has so many perks. So if you're not an avid reader right now, but you're wanting to get into it, I feel like this is a great way, again, to hold yourself accountable, try new things. But even if you are just wanting to read more, or I don't know, just dive deeper into reading, I feel like knowing that it's such a great hobby to pick up can encourage you to do that. So first of all, it's a screen-free hobby. At least I read all paperback books or like hard copy books. I guess you can read on your phone or Kindles or whatever, but for me, I love it because it's a screen-free hobby to unwind. So I read before bed. That is my screen-free time. That helps me sleep better at night. I also think reading, I called it healthy escapism because I feel like it's the same as turning on a TV, turning on your favorite YouTuber, and just disassociating from your own life for a little while and escaping into some other like story is really nice and actually healthy from time to time. So that can really help you reduce your stress, reduce any anxiety that you're feeling about whatever is going on in your own life for a little while. And then, of course, we know reading improves your vocabulary, but it also improves your memory, focus, can like help encourage creativity, things like that. And then I think my other big reason why I wanted to read more was I think reading just helps you become a more well-rounded and educated person. So it kind of goes back to that whole, escaping your own reality and reading somebody else's story. But I feel like you learn a lot through that. So it could be nonfiction, but you're just learning about people's different perspectives, different experiences. Maybe you're even like exploring a different country, different cultures, and all of this, like, you get through reading without actually having to like go on a trip. And, it's just like a more, I don't know, easy way to learn about something completely different and get different experiences without having to leave your own house.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest things for me once I became a reader was just like how much better my life was to be able to read instead of being on my phone. Because like if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that I'm like an avid phone user, and I'm just like, it is so nice. I went to get a pedicure yesterday and I was like, I don't even need my phone. I'll just bring my book and read. And I was just like, see, life is good. This is so much better than me just like doom scrolling Instagram because I have nothing else to do. So I definitely agree with that. I also think something that's great about if you are already an avid reader and haven't like started or joined a book club is that one, it gives you like a place to discuss books, which if you're a nerd like me, that's cool. When I got back into reading, was surrounded by people who were like, I don't read, or like, I haven't read since high school. And I was like, who am I supposed to talk to about all my books? So that was something that was really exciting. And then I think the other thing is that it sort of teaches you how other people think about books, which can make you a better reader. Like, I think that if we looked at our first book club meeting and like our discussion compared to our discussions now, we would all be considered better readers. Like, we're all like more critical thinkers when it comes to reading. And obviously, like, the more you read, the better a reader you become and you start to like understand things more. So that's another sort of cool part of it.
Hell yeah. We love some good critical thinking skills. That's the best.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if we have sold you on why you should start a book club, now we're going to talk about how to actually do that. So our book club started, it was essentially, I feel like I talked to a few different people being like, I want to start a book club. And people were like, you totally should. And I was like, great. And I was out for dinner with one of my friends who's in the book club with us. And I was like, okay, no, I've been saying this to everybody. People tell me I should do it, but like, will you actually be in my book club? And she was like, yes, I will be in your book club. And then we started thinking of our friends that we could also invite who would probably be interested. So again, since reading was one of my yearly goals, I had bonded over that with some of my friends, Tegan being one of them, knowing she also had yearly reading goals. So it just felt natural to be like, hey, I want to start a book club. Will you join? So I feel like if you're somebody who wants to initiate that, just start with that one friend or a few friends who like reading, read a lot, or want to read more. And then just start coordinating to see if they're actually interested in joining a book club. I feel like if you're not that person who's wanting to take that initiative, then you could also just look for existing book clubs and try to join one of those. I know there's a lot of there's like Toronto Girl Social, there's Monday Girl, like there's so many social clubs forming these days, it feels like. And a lot of them have a book club branch or like option to them. So maybe you just start with looking for different social clubs in your town, city, or community. You could maybe find this on Facebook or even on Bumble. We've talked about maybe there's even like Eventbrite or just something where you just start getting connected to people, and then you can hopefully join like an already pre-established book club. I know book clubs are huge on TikTok, so it's like maybe you go to TikTok and you're searching for book clubs and just slide into somebody's DMs. Like you never know who is in a book club and how to get invited, but I feel like once you actually start seeking this out, it actually I feel like would be pretty simple.
Yeah, definitely. I think once you figured out like the people who are going to be in your book club, the next step is to figure out like how often you should meet, what is the deal with the book club. Like I have
Yeah.
a friend who their book club, they only read biographies. And they're like, this is what the book club is. We only read biographies. And I have another
Mhm.
friend and they only meet every like 3 to 4 months to do their book club. Like it all depends on the people who are in the club and what they want to achieve from it. Obviously, like if you're a group of people who's really busy, meeting monthly is probably not realistic because one, like it's a lot to meet every month, and two, that then means you have to read a book every month, which can be a lot. So I
Yeah.
know like a lot of book clubs where it's moms, it's like you're meeting seasonally or whatever it might be. So I think start there and then you can decide where are you going to meet? Is it going to be each person's going to take a turn hosting? Is it going to be like here in Toronto, we have book themed cafes and bars. So sometimes the book clubs will just like meet up there. You could meet up at like a park. The options are kind of endless.
Yeah, 100%. And then I think if you're meeting at someone's house, then you can talk about, okay, is the person who's hosting providing everything, or is everybody bringing something and it's like a potluck situation? Like, what does that actually look like? And then I think even further to this, and maybe this is like complicating things, but it is something to just keep in mind. But think about how you feel and if you want to set any guidelines around can people come if they haven't finished the book? And I feel like we've run into that a few times in our book club, but
Mm.
it doesn't maybe have to be like a hard yes or no, but it's just like if you come and you haven't finished the book, like don't expect us to cater the conversation to not have any spoilers, like just set some expectations and guidelines around that. You could also set some guidelines around how do you feel about non-book related discussion. To be honest, our book club, we spend like 10 minutes talking about the book and like 3 hours talking about life. However, if
Mhm.
you're an avid booker, if you're an avid reader joining a book club, you might be annoyed with that and be like, no, I am here to like deep dive into this book for 3 hours. I don't care how your work day went. So
Yeah.
maybe just like set some guidelines around that. And then I think another big one, going back to your point, Tag, about if you're meeting monthly, that's a book a month, like that's a lot. Maybe you also want to set some guidelines around how long these books are. Like, for instance, this month's book in our book club, the girl was like, oh, I want to read this book. And we're like, okay, sure. Then we looked it up. We're like, that's 600 pages. That is not happening in
Yeah.
May or June, whatever month it is.
Yeah.
Like, it is too long. So maybe you also set some guidelines around that. And like you said, Tag, are you open to all genres? Is it just biographies, just fiction, just nonfiction? Like, or is it just kind of loosey goosey and that go with the flow type energy?
Yeah, definitely. And then I think as far as like when you are getting to the hosting, which we're going to break down into more details, but you can also decide is the person who hosting also the person who's leading the discussion? Because I know some book clubs, it's like the person is hosting, they're just hosting, and then there's someone else who's in charge of leading the discussion. So it is kind of up to you how in depth you want to go with it.
Mm-hmm. And I think to that point too, it's how do you select your books? Like for us,
Mm-hmm.
whoever's hosting picks the book that we're going to read. But I know other book clubs, they all suggest ideas and then they vote on it. Or maybe you do just like a random generator, like you all contribute ideas and then it's just randomly picked which one you actually read. So also think about how you want to do that as well. And then if it is one of those like random generators or a voting tool, like seek out resources to help you do that rather than it all falling on one person to coordinate it every single time you meet up.
Yeah. Definitely. And then I think from there, you just have to pick when your first date to meet's going to be. I find like we have a somewhat large book club where it's
Yeah.
like I've seen larger, but I've seen smaller. And so it is sometimes difficult to coordinate a date where everyone's available, especially in the summer when people are like traveling. So it can be good to kind of give some options. I know some girls have like done spreadsheets in the past and be like, fill out what days you want to come and that sort of thing. But then you just pick your date, text the group chat, and go from there.
Yeah, good call in the group chat. Actually, that's something I didn't even think of until you said it, but having a group chat to coordinate all of this definitely helps. If
Yes.
that's WhatsApp, we're so lucky. It's like the only requirement to be in our group book club is that you have an iPhone so we can like iMessage.
Yes.
But maybe it's Facebook Messenger, like whatever it is. Create that group chat so you can, yeah, coordinate what you're reading, where you're meeting, who's hosting, and all of those details.
Definitely. Great.
Awesome.
Shall we dive into hosting tips?
Yes, let's do it. I think where I wanted to start was around probably piggybacking off like your first meetup and maybe not everybody knowing each other. If you're inviting your friends and then their friends are inviting their friends, you're going to get a group of people where it's like, okay, great, I know you kind of, I don't know you at all. So I feel like it's could be a good idea to have some sort of like icebreaker game to get to know each other, at least for the first meeting, but maybe this is something you do for the first couple minutes of every book club meeting, until you feel like you're all best friends. But I feel like the first ever book club meetup I hosted, and I'm pretty sure Tag only you and one other girl came.
Yeah.
But I knew you guys pretty well, and you guys didn't know each other super well, so I don't remember even if I asked these questions, but I just had like book related questions I wanted to ask for this kind of icebreaker. So it's like, what is your favorite childhood book? What's your favorite book of all time? What genre do you typically read? You know, just to like, again, break the ice. But this could like snowball into so many different things if you do it in like an ongoing fashion. Like I just got a book trivia card game from Indigo, and it's like that could be fun just to like whip out a few questions at the beginning of every book club. But I don't know, just some sort of like icebreaker game to get to know each other. I feel like could be really good if it's a whole bunch of people coming from all different areas of life kind of thing.
Yes, definitely. I think sort of related. As the host, I always think it's a good idea to have some discussion questions ready. Like it's probably 50-50, I feel like, in our group where we can just like dive in and start chatting, where the other 50 it's like, okay, what did we think of the book? And that's when it's really good to be like, okay, here are the questions I want to ask. And a lot of the books that we read have like discussion questions included in the back. If not, you can usually Google and there will be like book club guides for every single book out there, which can be a really good sort of jumping off point. And we also like to sometimes ask the same questions. Like there's one girl in our book club who always hates the main character. So without fail, we'll ask her, like, did you hate this character? And like we always ask, what was your star rating and things like that. So you could also have it that you ask the same questions every single month to make it a little bit easier on the host.
Yeah, I love that so much. It's funny because I feel like one book club I went over the top with the PowerPoint because I was like, okay, this is what the girls on TikTok are doing. I'm doing the PowerPoint. But then it like was so structured where I was like, okay, guys, we can also like talk about things not in the questions. You know what I mean? So I feel like for us, it's a good mix of seeing where the conversation goes organically. And like you said, Tag, if it comes to a standstill or people don't know what to say about the book, it's nice to have those questions in your back pocket to like kickstart the conversation. But yeah, it is funny because I'm like, hey, I went into that maybe a little too hot that week or that month. Oh my God, I can't speak. But so funny.
I think that it also, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think it also depends on the quality of the book. Where I feel like if a book, and it's not even like if it's good or bad, but it's like if people have a divisive opinion on it, then it's like, okay, I need to get my thoughts out. Where if it's a book that's just meh, it's like, okay, let's talk about life then.
The next hosting tip we wanted to talk about was planning your snacks and drinks. So I think you could keep this super simple. Just do like tea, coffee, cookies. You could also do like wine, chips, candy, something like that. I feel like I said earlier, our book club loves to host. So everybody goes over the top with the snacks and drinks. That time I did the PowerPoint presentation, went over the top with like theming the cocktails to the book, had the PowerPoint, the food I served was like the main character's favorite foods. Like you can go crazy with it, or you can just keep it simple and extremely budget friendly. And like I said, also if you're the host, but you're expecting people to bring things, like make sure you're communicating that and like kind of delegating who brings what. So you have like a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Good spread.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one main thing when hosting, which seems obvious, but also I feel like is something that you might forget, is to make sure you have room for everyone to sit. Like you're going to be there for a while. So this is also like we live in Toronto. Everyone's living in tiny apartments. So it's like your little couch might work good for you and your roommate, but you might have to like bring in some extra chairs to get all the girls seated. And then I also think it's nice to like set the vibes, get a playlist going. Pretty much every book, if you look it up on Spotify, there will be a playlist for it. So it's like set the mood, get the playlist going, get the vibes going. If you're like lighting a candle, whatever it is, just make it like a cozy, nice room to be in for a couple hours.
Yeah, I love that so much. I'm just new into the whole reading playlist. So not even like necessarily themed to a book, but just like the vibes of that book, and it's maybe instrumental music made for when you're reading it. I think that's just so elite, like top tier.
Yeah, I'm all about that. Great. Okay, well, I think that's where we'll leave it for this week. Thanks so much for listening. We put out a new episode every single Tuesday, so make sure you're following and subscribe to us so you see when those new episodes drop. We also release them a day early on Patreon, completely ad-free. So if that is something interesting to you, definitely check that out. We have it linked in our show notes. You can also follow us on social media. We are at our Golden 20s on almost all the platforms. That's everything for this week. Thanks for listening.
See you next Tuesday.
Bye.